All right, hello. I recently saw this video from Michael Cheung. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. That about creating a modern explosion sound out of basically stuff that you can just record at home, and I that really inspired me, and I really wanted to try and challenge myself. So I thought I'll try and do an explosion sound out of a single source. Um, so yeah, let's see what we're doing today. So first you're gonna hear the source that I used, and only that source, and then the final results, I guess. Cool. So this time I try to save all of my iterations here, but it's gonna take a while to go through all of this, so I'm gonna try and be quick so it's not another 40-minute video. So yeah, this was the original source that I picked. So I tried to figure out how to start making this into building blocks. The first thing I did was try and get some impacts. Should be fairly easy out of a nice swoosh like that. So it's very much relying on Filter Freak, just doing a very quick sweep, or whatever you want to call it. And disperser, some transient shaping, DDC, transgressor, and saturation. Feel free to experiment with the order, it's not exact science. But yeah, I got some basic thuds. Very clicky, but I don't usually care about that too much. You can always clean it up if you have to, or I would not use them as is either way. And the stuff you see at the top here is just the stuff that I've rendered out. Then I would duplicate the track, experiment getting a little bit different kind of transients. I think that the difference is this is pitched down and that's not. Again, a little bit different. I think I'm just letting the Filter Freak breathe a little bit more, trying to get some more clicky stuff on top of the just the thuddy low end kicks. This is where I was already experimenting with some reverb. So same stuff basically, but I thought I'm gonna try and get some space in there. Not sure if I ended up using this is super reverby, but we'll see. So yeah, experimenting further with the reverb stuff. I guess transgressor is giving us that kind of nice rippling effect, which I really like, and obviously slamming it with this crazy compressor really helps to amplify that kind of stuff. More of the same basically. Realm is probably not the best reverb for this, but I think that kind of rippling and pulsating effect kind of masks the reverbiness of it. So I think we got some cool results already. Especially the first one here is pretty nice. And yeah, I would keep rendering all of this out. Add some flanger here and there. Just trying to figure out by all means necessary how to get that kind of almost somewhat natural sounding rippling effect. Then I wanted some bass. Again, using sub synth seems to be very good for like, I just didn't even look at anything. I turned all of the knobs to 100 and I was like, okay, cool, that's a earthquake. And I guess the trick is to have the reverb first and then let's see what it sounds like without it. Okay, kind of like a mess. So yeah, it's definitely the saving grace of this this sound. Then I would keep, and yeah, these you can see these are always pitched kind of randomly, or well, if I'm doing low end, I presumably want to have this pitched down as well, or the source sound. Yeah, further experimentation with the low end stuff. No reverb this time, but yeah, getting that kind of cool, weird movement with the filter freak. Could be cool for some like slap back or explosion kind of swooshy stuff. I think here I was just playing with the flanger. Gives it that kind of a cool fluttery sound. Yeah, I think at this stage I started to pull from the, so this I'm actually not sure where this came from, but I started to like resample this already processed stuff at this stage. And like this is, at this stage the source doesn't matter anymore because we're basically processing just like that bass rumble sound that was mostly generated by sub synth. Then using Traveler again to generate like movements and impacts out of the rumbly stuff, and more distortion, flanging, just anything to try and give it movement. Pitching it up to get like different registers. We're gonna need some heavy mid hits as well. Can't go all sub. And I guess since it's distortion or explosions, distortion is very welcome. You just gotta be, I guess, mindful of what kind of distortion and how much, but I think you can go pretty heavy-handed with it. Like the only, this is kind of like on the verge, those very high-end clicks I don't really like, but like I would say this is kind of too much. But it depends. Usually having processing, I do quite a lot of processing after the distortion to try and kind of mask it a little bit and make it a little bit more pleasant. So if you do it that way around, you can be pretty heavy-handed with it. More random mangling. It's the same plugins basically all the time. And yeah, it seems that I'm now pitching it up to really try and get like some kind of cool movement out of it, or something else than just random low end rumble. Yeah, so that was basically all the source that I generated for it. It's all here, and we can't hear it because something. So yeah, then I would start the actual design, and I guess we can start with the impacts. So what I did first was these designs down here, or actually just one of them. I didn't have that. So yeah, I would try and make some kind of an impact out of the source that I had, and then process these a little bit further. So very simple, thuddy stuff. Wanted to get some of that mid-range crackle, so quite a lot of saturation, and filter freak is just kind of nice to keep everything in check. Experimenting with micro shift to give it some width, but didn't use it that much on this sound. Same stuff here. Just trying to get like a cool explosion-y. I don't know what would you would even call it, but like these kind of forces, you know, that the explosion is projecting, and what they could sound like. So having these kind of sweepy, weird sounds usually works pretty well. And just to try and give it some kind of tail here and there, I just used rear delay. Kind of very basic slapback, filtered slapback sound. I think that sounds a little bit more natural than just straight up reverb. Some low end. And when you have a bunch of transients like this, it doesn't really matter. Like all of the source doesn't really have to be that amazing. And obviously I would pitch these up and down to really match what I'm doing, I guess. So first I actually tried to just do it like this in one go, but then I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, so I just copied this here and did like a different variation, and did that a couple of more times, and then rendered all of them out. Took the best ones and did a thing like this. On its own, it actually sounds a little bit weak, and that's kind of weird, but then I did like some kind of a mastering chain, I guess. I usually don't master too much on the parent folders, but here it felt like we had some room. So yeah, that's the impact. Did the same thing with the body. The body is much more distorted, but yeah, just wanted to find a nice, pleasant coverage of all the frequencies, basically. And if I just open these up and we take off the effects, very distorted, but you can hear like there's some cool moments. Like that's cool. Definitely would use that. Oh, that's exactly the one that I used. Okay. Yeah, just getting rid of the low end. Usually nice to have more than too little, so you can always cut it away. Saturation, distortion, trying to get that kind of cool mid-rangey power in there. These don't sound much on their own. So for this one, yeah, this is for kind of like the high-end crackle. And really trying to worldize this one, because without any of the worldizing plugins, just a burst of distortion or noise basically. So I used Phoenix Verb. I don't think it's the best for this either, but just add some kind of a shimmer or like a little tail to it. Crystallizer. I thought it was a pretty cool effect, kind of like a reverse explosion swoop. And then Echo Boy had this preset, just sounded pretty natural to me, so I was like, let's use that. And that's again more of that kind of ripping sound. Yeah, same plugins basically. And yeah, just experimenting with the different source that I had. So same thing here. Well, a little bit of EQ cleanup on the parent, but again did a few variations, bounced them out, and yeah, tried to fill out rest of the explosion. This layer was pretty cool, in the sense that this really makes it quite realistic, but like worldizes it quite nicely. Without this one, it's pretty dry. And I guess the cool thing about doing designs like this is that you really have to try and think what are the kind of natural imperfections that you would have in a real recording. Like I would never design a sound like this unless I really needed it. I think it sounds noisy, it sounds quite unpleasant, but with the context of everything else around it, it really helps to tie everything together. So yeah, we can have a listen with it. Oh, our impact is, and without it. So I mean, could be cool, could be more controlled. That could work as well. And yeah, it's the ROM grounded version that is doing all of the heavy lifting. But yeah, it just sounds like a nice reflection in the world. Same thing with this. This is more like the just gritty rumble that you have in a lot of these explosions. Nothing crazy going on with the processing except disperser to kind of hide some of the unpleasant distortion. That's just a random thing, reversed, just mini lead in. Always makes it sound cooler if you have a lead in. I guess the tail is the more interesting thing, oddly enough. I'm pretty happy how this turned out. Without any plugins. Sounds like this. So the source was already pretty much there. I just pitched down quite a lot of the source that I had, and again, on its own, not amazing. I think this is one of the body layers that I just took and pitched down. Some EQ, auto pan to give it movement, and ROM to kind of push it back a little bit. I didn't want to have too much like very obvious reverb in the tail, so I tried to keep it quite low in the mix. And all of these kind of very weird movement layers just make the tail feel a little bit more alive. Again, using Echo Boy and just some very minimalistic amount of flanging. And I think this is another impact that has been pitched down. Yeah. It's one of the, or some of the impact variations that I designed earlier. I think this is pretty much pretty much directly the sound that we had earlier, designed in the first stage. Then again, this kind of rippling low end stuff really makes it sound pretty cool, I think. Almost sounds better without it, but I was trying to again use transgressor to give it that kind of thundery movement, used with Filter Freak as well. Yeah, Filter Freak is just getting rid of the clicks and giving it some extra flutter. Just low rumble, could be anything. Yeah, again, kind of reverbed sub mess. It's definitely all of these little details that kind of make it a little bit more lively. Again, something that has been generated in the first stage, and same thing here. I guess it's also an exercise in like being very selective of what you use. A lot of this does not sound amazing, but if you use just a bit of it and you kind of fade into something else, a bunch of sounds in kind of in a sequence can sound very cool. So here's the tail. On the tail parent, I had some stereo width enhancing. I thought it sounded pretty cool, made it kind of bigger. Trying to reduce some of the clicks, and yeah, just some kind of EQ. Oh yeah, and I did try and bounce the tail out as well. Pitch it down, but I think it was getting too muddy, so I didn't really use it. And yeah, that was one of the body layers that was just pitched down and modulated a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So here's again just the impact, body, tail, and yeah, it's probably not the best timing for it, and yeah, timing does a lot. So you can definitely, it's a lot about getting that right as well. So, and yeah, it's always fun to kind of mess around with the, just be like super staggered. Makes it a little bit bigger. But yeah, cool. Hopefully that was somehow informative and helpful, and well, it definitely wasn't entertaining. Well, anyways, thank you. Bye.